Okay, so can you guys breathe okay? It's not. It's okay, right? If not, we'll turn off the lights for it. But anyhow, so today we will tackle. We've been working on. So the first session was fundamentally developing rudimental routines to create phrasing. So those weren't drum solos. I have to go grab my chair. Then the second session was melodies, using more of a melodic approach, like as in rhythms, but like using New Breed and the syncopation book and sort of more linear ideas, not as in linear drumming, but one-liners. The third session was soloing over foot ostinatos. Today is, all right, let's use those tools, right, and create a drum solo. Like we've got all these separate standalone tools, but they mean nothing if we can string them nicely together. Otherwise, they might mean something. It's just not something that it's worth listening to. I talk there about the idea of a narrative, and I would like to talk a little bit about that. Today's session might go over, I must warn you, because I was trying to condense this as much as possible, but there's quite a lot of material to cover. I think I've come to a sort of understanding of what drum solos were the moment I realized not only its structure in a literal way, of as in, okay, I'm watching a solo and I'm right down, okay, it starts with this and then it starts with that. That for me was a little bit, it was cool. Don't get me wrong, it's fine. It helped. But it helped me more when I realized the bigger picture, when I could see like there was a common thread, right? And I started seeing like it was no different, or it shouldn't be anyway, but the solos that I appreciated watching, they weren't that much different from reading a book, right? You have the premises, and that's the next slide. You've got the premises where you set up the characters, right? You set up, in this case, the theme. You've got a motif, and you set it up at the beginning, or so you should. Anyway, I would. That's my understanding of a drum solo. So always take these ideas with a pinch of salt. This is my interpretation of what a drum solo should be. Feel free to disagree, but also feel free to try it out and see how that works for you, right? And then in the middle, I called it adventure. I'll be more specific as we go along, but I'm really using the narrative idea here, right? So you've got the adventure. Here is sort of where everything can go slightly wrong. Not wrong as in playing badly, but it's when we push it to the limit of that theme, right? We've introduced the character, and now we gotta expose that character to trouble. In drumistic terms, that means, we are going to use all those tools that we've learned in this month. We are going to try to expose that idea that we introduced at the beginning to more technically and coordination-wise challenging ideas, let's say. All right, and then of course the end. So beginning, middle, and then end. It's the story. And if a drum solo or a solo, guitar solo, doesn't matter, lacks that, especially drum solos, I believe, because we are often given less opportunities to solo during the show, but when we do, it's kind of like, all right, drum solo, right? And the band leaves the stage, they go grab a beer, and that's awesome, because then we get to tell our story. You can look at it also as songwriting, right? You've got an intro, you got the verse, you got the first chorus, verse, bridge, chorus, and it's the same thing. It doesn't have to be different, the approach. Okay, so I would start organizing my ideas like that. So if you guys want to write a drum solo, I wouldn't write musical notes down, because that takes away from, I guess, the purity of those ideas, right? If we're just literally writing note by note what we're going to play, again, can we do that? Sure. Is that a good idea? I'm not sure, right? Like I'm not sure of how interesting that would be to listen to more than once, first of all, because then it's the same thing over and over again. And it is a drum solo, right? It's not a song and it's not a book. It gets to a point that it becomes okay. It's just a drum solo. We have to refresh those ideas, otherwise it's just like, okay, I get it. You can play that. I was thinking about the idea of, for example, of using licks. I was thinking about that this morning, like why I avoid at the beginning when introducing a character. I avoid using licks, specific licks that I would use as a drum fill in my, normal playing, non-solistic playing. And the reason for that is because I want to find new ideas every time, right? So I really try to approach a drum solo as an opportunity to experiment and explore and create and try to be, I tend to improvise my solos, but what I don't improvise is the structure. And that's why when you see a great soloist, they seem to always know how to get out of trouble. Right? And that's because they have a structure, a mental structure that they are sort of following, not the notes, but they know that once that idea that they are exploring peaks, all right, next step. That's it. That's the cue, right? They allow, and we will talk about that idea of how to know when it collapsed, and it's time to move on, right? Because it should be before it collapses for real, right? You don't want that. You don't want to be like, all right, so that's all noise. Let's move on. No, should be before. Okay, so in a more specific and practical approach, at the beginning we've got, introduce a rhythm or a rhythmic or melodic idea, pattern. Okay, so that, let's say, I sit down and, and it's a drum solo, free form. Really think, drum festival. You've got 20 minutes. How do you manage that? The drum solo for 20 minutes? That's a long time soloing, right? So I would say, explore. See what the drums have to tell you that day. So you got, I'm gonna start with mallets. That's the other thing that is cool, and I've got brushes here. It's cool to experiment with, just for the sake of finding new ideas. Once again, right? So go and use new sounds. Use your hands. You see a lot of guys using their hands. That's why they're trying to see, all right. So if I do this, what stems out of that? It's not going to be the same thing over and over again because you've changed everything. You've changed the sound. You've changed the feel, because these feel different. They bounce here, right? A big felt tip. So let's say the solo starts, and I'm just like. Stop there. So I'm playing that. I'm like, all right. I start to hear that. It's, all right, that makes sense. I dig that. Catch. And that's really how it should feel. Like it's coming out. And then let me hold on to this one. And you start exploring that. And that's second step, right? Develop the theme, explore, expand, and let it collapse. So I'll talk about the let it collapse bit more in depth in a minute, but that would be my adventure section, right? When I grab that, I hold on to that idea, and that idea can also morph. It doesn't have to be boom, bam, boom, boom. Every single time we can, expanding on it could be to change the melody, but still within the same sort of idea. It can be to change the subdivision. One thing that I like to do, because it establishes a good foundation to those who are listening, is that I like to start sort of free form, no tempo, just like people fiddling around, see what happens, see what comes. And I catch one. Right, then I'm going to put that into a rhythmic structure eventually. That can be super simple. It doesn't have to be a very complex tool. So you're playing that. introduction right there it gives people, okay, here's where I am. Even though we might have spent, 2-3 minutes just feeling prior to that, it's very difficult for whoever's listening or watching to feel the pulse. Because maybe there's no pulse. Maybe you're literally just... Okay, so this will be an intro again, right? And then I stumble upon that. And I bring the... Okay, I've got that idea there. And by the way, I didn't have that planned. But that's going to be my idea for the rest of the workshop. That was one of my... Actually, I decided I'm not going to go in with a solo in my mind. I'm exactly going to do what I'm preaching, right? I'm going to try to catch something. So I did. I like it. Okay. So you've got that. You explore. And by the way, I should say that this requires practice. And not just... How do I put it? It requires spending time only on catching ideas and then letting them go and catching ideas. So like a lot of non-lick oriented playing, that's why I was talking about licks, because if I'm thinking of a lick, for example, like an infamous gad lick, right? But if that's my go-to, and if I have no ability, one could say, but also courage to sit down and just play randomly and just let it happen, right? Like in the moment. If I can't do that and I always rely on licks, well, those licks will be the same every day. And you'll end up getting stuck in ruts because of that, because your premises is the same every day. It's like you saying you're challenging yourself every day to walk differently. It's not going to work. You walk the same way every day. And you should, because that's in your procedural memory. That's your muscle memory. Licks are in your muscle memory. Right? So if you rely on muscle memory to be creative, there's a paradox there. Muscle memory is there to avoid creativity. Right? So you can walk every day. You know that you can walk every day. The same way that you know that every day you can play a paradiddle. But if you want to get really creative with the paradiddle, you'll have to challenge that muscle memory a lot. Because he will want to bring you back, and we all know that feeling, right? He wants to bring you back to what's familiar. No, that's wrong, right? I always use that expression of the body attempting to correct what's not wrong when we, for example, play a paradiddle backwards, let's say, right? An inverted paradiddle. And your body initially keeps wanting to correct and goes back to right, left, right, instead of right, left, right. All the time, right? Before you know it, it's back to where it shouldn't be, right? So that's the body correcting what's not wrong, which is, of course, annoying. Okay, so you've got the intro, you explore, you find that idea, boop, beep, boop, boop, and you add a pulse to it eventually. So that would be, for me, already the middle section. Okay, and that gives you, not just the audience, but gives you now a different approach to what you're playing. So now you're more grounded. You're here. Say that right there, I feel like it's starting to, it's not bending anymore. It's really starting to become a little bit rigid. So I feel like I'm starting to cycle ideas and not recycle ideas, which is what you want. All right, so that's, for me, I've let it collapse. I've allowed it to collapse. It collapsed. All right, I'm pretty much done with that idea. But that doesn't mean that we are done, and that's why we need a mental structure to follow, because otherwise, that's when people go a little I'm done. And I felt that before. I'm sure I've told you this story, but if I have, forgive me, I'll say it again. There was once this was quite a few years ago now, but I was practicing with this band. It was sort of a progressive rock band. And, you know, I'm saying progressive rock, but I'm adding that there because, you know, people could play, all right, in that band. They could play. They had the high standard for themselves and others in the band. Cool. We had it going, right? You know, I was like 19. And we had it going. We felt good about ourselves. And one day, the keyboardist goes like, hey, man, you know what we should do? A drum solo for this song, right? And we'll just play a vamp. We'll keep on repeating this guitar riff. I can't remember what it was. Doesn't matter. It had like these cute little stabs. I say cute because we were children. Those songs were shit. And okay, do a drum solo. Cool. I started the drum solo. By bar 2, I was out. And I was like, let me try this again. And that's literally what I said, right? I can't remember what I played. Don't ask me to remember that. But let's say that it was this, right? I started playing like my rhythm because I could play. That was the conflict and it was a tough lesson to learn because I could play, but I couldn't create, especially on the fly because I had no mental structure to follow. I had no roadmap, so I was like, all right, drum solo. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm starting to get lost. And I could literally feel my mind going like... And I knew that if I were to do that for another 3-4 bars, that would just be it. I would just start looping the... And I didn't want that. You know, I had watched, you know, dozens of drum solos. They didn't sound like that. They didn't sound boring like that. I was just like, what the hell? Let me try this again. Do it again. And here's where it really got weird for me. When I tried again, I played the exact same notes. I was like, okay. Let me try this again. What the? Try again. Same notes. Literally, I fall within the same patterns, which taught me you're using muscle memory. Because I was using fills to try to come up with a drum solo. Big mistake. Because I could play fills, but that's one bar at a time, right? So you don't really run the chance of exhausting your ideas. At least if you don't analyze your playing too much, it seems like you're not, because you play a fill every other bar, every 4-8 bars. You know, there's enough time for you to forget that you've done that fill already 30 times during that show. A solo, it exposes you because you're just there. That's it. That you're playing by yourself. Go, right? All right. So I learned that lesson quickly. I told the band like, I guess I'm gonna have to have a think at home. Let's move on. We did move on. Nothing happened during the week, by the way. I couldn't come up with a drum solo. Just couldn't. And we ditched the idea, and I felt, you know, really bad. Because fortunately, I was aware enough that I knew that that solo sucked, so it never went on the road, that solo. But, yeah, it was just like such a tough lesson to learn and realize, because, again, I could play. The technical facility was there, but I had no understanding of any of this, I guess, that we are talking about today. Like, for me, a solo was all those things that I now say that they are not. You know, they were just a bunch of fills. No? Right? And then when I started doing it, like, no, this sounds horrible. I don't like this. And I started studying soloists, right? So I started looking at what's going on here. Instead of trying to steal licks and whatnot, I started like, what's the mind? What are they thinking? Like, you know, to the best of my ability from the outside, I was trying to crack their mindset. I started seeing things. The more you look, right? And I started seeing like, all right, there seems to always be some sort of collapsing moment where the thing just erupts, and that's the end of that, right? And they move on. I started seeing those patterns showing up, right? So again, going back from that idea, and I apologize if it sounds like I'm just interrupting my own soul, but that's what's going to happen today. So from here, I forget now how it collapsed, so I'll have to do it again. So this is the middle section, okay? I've shifted gears there with the subdivision. Okay, just so I give you really proper insight on why I was like, you know what, I think I've got another 20 bars in me because of that little, let me shift. Because I felt in my mind like, warning, you're starting to loop that a little bit too much. So, shift. Alright, I changed subdivisions. I went from 16th notes to triplets, 8th note triplets. 16th notes again. Ready to call it a day on this idea, right? I'm going to introduce a new idea. Right, so this is the next. I allow it to collapse, and I've got another idea in the back. I'm going to use the baião. Okay? So that's the resolution. Resolve the theme and either conclude or introduce new theme. Yeah, because if you look at the time, you're like, yeah, I've been soloing for 10 minutes, I need another 10. All right. Go back to the beginning. New idea. Go and fish for a new idea, a new theme, a new motif. So I'm going to use the baião. Right. But I'm not going to be choppy about it, meaning I'm not going to go from... Sorry, I was sloppy. That could be done. I would prefer to be more subtle about it. So I go like... Because I've been soloing for a while now, it's also a good idea to eventually also, switch sound sources or tools in this case. All right, so I'm still playing with the melody. Imagine, blah, 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 blah. I keep now because I have a foot ostinato going. That frees up my hands to be like. Etc., etc. So I've now gone back to the beginning again, right? So now I guess I will be a little bit less exploratory than the first time around. So otherwise, it just sounds a bit weird. But why not? Again, don't. It's just an opinion. But that right there gives you a solid 10-minute story, just with that little simple roadmap. So. The idea of letting your themes collapse, right? So, in storytelling, there's this idea of chaos and order, right? So usually stories start always with order, then everything kind of goes pear-shaped, and then order again, happy end. When it comes to drum solos, that's also achievable. So I've got a sort of representation for that, so we can have these mental images, I guess. So the first step is like just abstract ideas. It says exploratory phase there. Okay. So that's what I was doing at the beginning, right? Okay, so this is me now getting into the next step. Organized phase. Ostinatos will connect the ideas previously explored. So I'm starting to introduce that. It can be anything again. It can be the samba, it can be the ostinato, it can be, we've worked on, which ones did we do here? The samba, the baião, the 3/4, with an eighth note, pattern, which orchestrated, it can be, it looks simple on paper, but eventually, House of Cards. Everything is gonna collapse, and you have to let it. That's what I really want to talk about. When you start feeling your ideas, like, I don't know if I can hold on to this, even if just creatively, don't push it, because that's when we push past that, as in we become stubborn, like, no, I'm gonna push this idea, instead of letting it collapse. That's usually when souls go, what's the word? Gimmicky. To me, they sound kind of, okay, this drummer is trying to pull something off that is not even beyond skill, but it's just not supposed to happen that day. And it's just, he or she's got that agenda, and I feel it. We can hear that, right? That's why we hear some guys and we go like, yeah. We hear other guys, we go like, whoa, what? Those guys are usually, and we will watch a couple of videos today, are usually a combination of a couple of things. One, technical skill, for sure. Number two, a very strong awareness of sound. So they know exactly what each drum sounds, what it sounds like, how to produce a sound that is going to give them the let's call it the soundscape that they want to convey to the audience. And they really know what sort of tools to use to achieve that. Cool. And also they have, so the third thing would be a mental structure, a sort of roadmap. And they are very okay with seeing their ideas just crumble. And then they move on. Right? That doesn't mean that it's bombing. It means that it's over. It's a big difference. That idea is finished. All ideas come to an end. Everything comes to an end. And the more we force that, no, stay alive, it's gonna start sounding like an idea zombie. Like it's just walking around there like it's dead. Right? Move on. All right. And then we are back to abstract. We do whatever we need to do to renew ideas, to find new ideas. All right, that's the same concept. Here we've got another representation of that. Okay. Right? Oops, sorry. Okay, so you see here, abstract, okay, exploratory, free-form, and melody-seeking phase. Then it becomes a little bit more organized. Allow those previously explored ideas to literally fall into place and set a pulse. So that's a tool. These are tools, by the way. How do we go from here to here? Set a pulse. That's it. Your ideas will have to suddenly fit a sort of grid. So what was abstract can't be no more. Set a pulse. That's it. Come up with like go from silly playing kind of. Everything will have to now fit that. So if you want to transition from the let me explore, see what's happening, and we'll see a couple of actual real life examples of that. And you want to transition from that into, okay, let me get into the solo now. Set the pulse. That's it. All right. And then, so a suggestion, introduce a simple foot ostinato, okay? Allow your ideas to collapse and introduce a new theme / ostinato to solo over. Suggestion, shift to a more complex ostinato or change time signatures. That suggestion is as in, okay, you need a second theme. You don't want it to be close to the first one. Otherwise, it just sounds like, again, kind of forcing it. We want a complete shift. So why not? Okay, so if here, let's say we were just playing a quarter note. Over there, maybe go for the baião. Like it's a complete shift. Like now the height is going to be on the eighth note off beats. We've got that boom, 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 boom on the bass drum. It doesn't sound anything like what it was before. You can, if you have the tools, you can orchestrate it. So you make it more colorful. You get the gist, right? Here, I've got a few examples. Right, the first example on the left, we've got a drummer called Brian Blade. Okay, we won't be watching all the entirety of all these videos. They're long, they're drum solos. On average, they are 10 minutes each. I've got 5 that I would like to show you. So Brian Blade is a jazz drummer, a very experimentalist kind of drummer. Okay, you're gonna see a lot of abstract ideas, which is why I picked him. Yeah, let's watch. Which most of you are for sure familiar with. Very well known amongst drummers. So another, for me, this guy is also a perfect example of a soloist. He's got his stuff together, right? He's organized, but he's also wild. He's very expressive, but he's very controlled. Like, he's got so much going on that if we start unpacking it, we'll see that there's hours and hours and hours of work behind structuring his playing, not just playing. His playing is, of course, technically outstanding, and you'll see it, but it's how to convey all these ideas properly, right? We can all speak, but then there's speakers. Yeah. 2, 3, 4, 1. 2, 3, 4. Establish the pulse. It's going to allow him to be more free with his hands. He's establishing this dotted 8th note with the bass drum. He's soloing on top of it. He's kind of playing off of a groove sort of idea. Right, he's got the ride going, he's got a solid quarter note pulse going. Goes off. Because he established a theme, he can always come back to it. He's not lost. All he's got to do is come back to where he started. And that hi-hat doesn't give up. This is sort of where he came from. And eventually he's gonna let go, because he's gonna realize, alright, I've explored this enough. He always has that place to go back to. It doesn't matter how quickly an idea peaks. He goes back to where he left it. Then he's back in he's safe for that. And if you're safe, you take chances. If you're on the edge, you're done. Right? You're gonna freeze eventually. Okay, so this tangent has been going on for a while now. He's allowing it to peak. It's going to eventually collapse, as all ideas do. Voila. Right there. Peak collapsed. Okay. Let's move on. The next two fellows. We've got Keith Carlock on the left, another very interesting musician. Okay, outstanding technique. He's gonna demonstrate again the power of having an established motif, let's call it. You can see the common thread is that, relentless hi-hat. These guys keep time as they improvise. Okay, there's a shift. It's going to have even a major shift. It's going to get to a point that it's going to go like, all right, I'm done with all of this. It's important that we start pinpointing these moments when we watch videos, like there. That's when he decided to leave it behind. So he changed sound and texture, but it's still the same principle. That idea clearly collapsed right there, right? He just lets it go. Alright, massive shift right there. He changed tempo literally. It's still Keith Carlock's playing, right? Sort of groove solo hybrid. He's a mean fellow. Alright, let's move on. Maybe this is important to watch actually. He brings it right down, right? He's now gonna construct the next section of his solo around this new groove. This new feel, more laid back, slower. Heavier, right? A bit more weight to it. Then he gives you these glimpses of where he's been. You guys get the idea. For more on that, go on YouTube. Joe Morello. One of the legends. A prime soloist. That insinuates something. I'm gonna go off soon, right? Right, he's off. That was another one, right? He picked and let it go. They don't force the ideas to come back either. See, it's just now. It's just all right. So I'm here now. And he took advantage of that peak and collapse. All right, let me change sound. Sound tool. Playing with his hands. Hi-hat is still there though. It's a mean bass for bringing back the sticks. But not too soon. He's playing two sticks, one hand, right? One-handed solo. Just because. Clearly hear the melodies, right? Get the idea? Again, it's clear storytelling, right? He was playing with the band, and then he kind of started announcing, like, hold on, there's a new something going on here. It's brewing, right? But the band was still playing, but he gave it away, like, I'm going off soon, right? All right. Then, of course, this is all planned. The band knew when to stop. Sometimes it's not, but it was. Right, the band stops, he starts soloing, but his solo doesn't come out of nowhere. He's still kind of sort of grooving, but he's opening, and expands. Like everything that expands, eventually it's got to collapse. He brought it down, went for hands. All right, let me see where this takes me. He starts doing this hand solo thing. Brought back the sticks, but he was like, because he grabbed both sticks first, and then you can tell that he makes this decision in the moment, like, I'm gonna go with one hand. See where that takes me, right? It's always that sort of exploratory. Whenever it collapses, it starts another exploration. Right? Whenever the idea peaks and just explodes, another exploratory process begins. And the more you allow those things to happen in your practice, the more they will happen on stage, right? All right, last one. Very exploratory. Now we are going way outside the box. We have to understand these things. Billy Martin, kind of an unknown. He's a very experimental sort of guy. He's a great drummer, and you'll see glimpses of how technically proficient he is. He's not messing around, but he's more worried about the sound. He's a textural kind of sort of player. He's an all-round artist as well, because he paints, he sculpts. He's kind of a Renaissance man, right? So check it out. Ostinato. This is not the beginning of the solo, by the way. You can see now, but it's part 2 of a 2-part video. This sort of cowbell thingy. Subdivision. Collapse right there. Right? It's not just noises and whistles. wasn't done yet, actually. We're gonna continue, but you get the point, right? You've got all these steps being constantly used by all these people, right? Like, there's clearly a common thread. Like, let's start with the most obvious ones. The fact that there's always a pulse, right? Usually, they do, not always, but sometimes they do start a little bit more abstract. Right? So again, bringing back that idea, see if I can still remember. No, I forgot it. That wasn't it, but whatever. You gotta let it collapse. That's it. It's a drum solo. Which microphone is doing this? It's this one. There you go, guys. Actually, yeah, 1:05, not bad. How to create a drum solo. Voila. Questions? It's weird, right? Like, I mean, this is the Holy Grail. This is where everything stops, I guess, and then it just lateral expansion. There's no more going up after this. Once you reach solo level and you can improvise and you can allow the ideas to come and go, and and what? Okay, instead of going off on a poetic tangent, let me maybe close with practical advice. How to practice this? We know the structure. We know how to listen to drum solos. That's sort of also what I wanted to show today and teach, is how to listen to drum solos, how to watch them. What are we supposed to take in, right? Like, is it just geniuses at work, or is there some sort of, what's the word? Logic to that madness? There is. I think I proved the point today that there are multiple common threads there that we can steal. But then, okay, how does one practice? And which one of those sections is the one that requires the most amount of practice? I would say that is the first one, right? That ability to sit down. I've lost the melon. To sit down and just, it's fine. To sit down and just explore ideas, right? So would you recommend writing? No. Recommend practicing. Right, and then stuff happens. You just keep going. Set a time limit. You'll be surprised how the first time you try to do this, actually don't set a time limit, but try to, even if you just don't have a timer, but have, a clock nearby. So you can take a look at how long it takes until the idea collapses. And you need to move on to the next one. You'll see that the first time it will probably be 2 bars, like that story that I told you. What I didn't know at the time how to do was to move on. What happened, so going back to that story of me playing with the band, drum solos, like, whoa, 2 bars and that's it. I'm a drummer, not a musician. That was me back then. And what I didn't know how to do was to move on. All right, that idea collapsed, move on. Next one, right? But try to see how long it takes until the first idea collapses, and then the next one, and then the next one. You might find that the more you try ideas, the quicker the shorter they are, or shorter. They have shorter lives, let's call it. But then, of course, over time, you'll start also realizing that one idea might, take you on a 10-minute journey. You just not even without going on. Using food ostinatos and blah, blah, just the exploratory phase. see, I fell into that trap, which is a good one. Like, I felt myself, I'm done with that. And my left foot reacted. That's not even a conscious decision at this point anymore. My left foot goes like, it's time, boss. You need to start to do something a bit more organized. And we move on. Until that explodes, and we move on. We go back, we explore again. We'll see what comes. It's that process that is a difficult one, though. Right? That process of sitting down and waiting for something good to come. Nothing good will come, by the way, the first 100 times you try to do this. Nothing good will come. It'll just be like random playing, and you'll stumble upon a couple of ideas that you won't be able to remember. As soon as you play them, they're gone. Like, oh crap, I like that one. But then you don't want to stop playing, so it's gone. It's gone. You have to keep going, right? You've got this forward motion to your playing now because you're playing. Now that idea is gone, and you're like, oh crap, I really like that one. You're trying to remember it as you play. As you play, which means your playing will really suck now because you're thinking about something else that it's in the past, but you're trying to hold on. What was that? So you're just basically just doing this by now, which is not good, right? It's so collapsed that it shouldn't be there anymore. But that's part of the process, right? I still do spend like just hours just seeing what happens, right? Exploring sounds. That's the other thing. You got to know the instrument at a deeper level than just that does that, this does this. Right? That's not true, right? A high tom alone, right? You've got the high tom sound, but you also have like the sort of, it's purposely tuned quite high today because I wanted to give it a bit of a melodic vibe to it. But you got the high tom sound, you got the timbale sound, right? So now that's different. You got the rim, you got the shell, right? And then you got you can alter the pitch by applying pressure on the skin. Try to find melodies. So if you can play a drum solo on one drum only, you don't get it, right? You're trying to use, again, gadgets to get you out of trouble. Hey, you gotta spend 10 minutes a day on one drum. 10 minutes, come on, I'm being nice. You know, if I were to be cruel and honest, I would say an hour. 10 minutes, right? Just on the medium tone. You can still use those tools though, right? It doesn't have to be just random notes. You can use that. So that would be, okay, here's my medium tone solo. I won't do that to you, but you get the point. Just do that for 10 minutes. A million times you'll be like, oh my god, I can't. I played that floor tone by accident. my mind just drifted. To move because it's difficult. Okay, all right. I'll leave it at that.